Hey everybody, how's it going? Today is November 15th, Tuesday. It has been officially 1 week since the midterm elections, and who would have guessed it, but the Democrats are already falling apart on some of their campaign promises. If you all watch Status Coup quite a bit, you're going to remember that basically all summer, even the late part of the winter this year, a big story that we were covering was the overturning of Roe versus Wade. When the leaked decision came out, we had reporting from me on the ground here in Austin, Texas. Obviously, Texas is a very big deal where this sort of stuff is happening. We had Tina Desiree Berg on the ground in California, John Farina in Washington, D.C., Jordan in New York City. We were all over this story talking to voters across the country as it was happening. And the sentiment of the time was tough. I mean, Democrats have been waiting for this to happen, essentially. Like, it should be no surprise. Republicans, obviously, for 50 years almost, have been trying to overturn Roe versus Wade. It happened. Not a big surprise. And we'll get into this a little bit later, some of the statements that President Biden recently made on this, which are concerning at best. But let's take a little bit of a trip down memory lane. This one interview really stuck out with me from some of our reporting back a couple of months ago in June of this year here in Austin, Texas. Let's take a look at that now. Today we had heard statements both from President Biden and Nancy Pelosi saying that the only way to fix this is to do it through Congress and that they don't have the votes right now. So everyone needs to go out and vote in November. What are your thoughts on our leaders just kind of essentially saying we just need to vote, and then they'll get to it? What are your thoughts on that?
Fuck Biden, fuck Nancy Pelosi. They don't give a shit about us. They have no understanding or concept of the reality that this is going to cause for many different marginalized individuals and identities. It's fucked. I mean, we've got a Democratic president, Senate, House. Where the fuck did that put us? I think the Trump presidency really had its nasty effects on us in the Supreme Court of the United States. And we're not able to vote for the Supreme Court of the United States, so what the fuck are we to do other than get out in the street?
So I would take it based on those statements. You definitely would be in support of overturning the filibuster. And, at this point, obviously, I don't see it coming. Biden's not going to do anything about this, in my opinion. But if I were in his shoes, I'd be pressuring the hell out of Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, and saying, hey, look, I will personally make sure you never win an election again. I will make sure that millions of dollars are put into campaigns to primary you. But he's definitely not doing any of that.
Well, no, he's going to have so much fucking funding from this.
Right.
Oh, people want abortions, and I'll just send a couple of emails every week to all these people and say, give me $5 and I'll get you abortion back.
Right.
You could have gotten it back. You could have codified it, you did it. And now they have funding for years to come.
Right.
If they keep this up.
I mean, how right did she end up being? I mean, it's unfortunate, but basically all summer we were hammered with email after email after email, campaign event after campaign event, saying, vote for us, give us $5, give us $10, give us $100, and we're going to make sure that we codify Roe versus Wade into law. And then, unfortunately, yesterday, President Biden, while at a press conference, was asked about this very question. And, personally, like I said in there, I didn't think they were going to do anything about it. That woman didn't think they were going to do anything about it. And, well, you can hear for yourself.
What should Americans expect from Congress as it relates to abortion rights after the midterms?
I don't think they can expect much of anything other than we're going to maintain our positions. I'm not going to get into more questions. I shouldn't even answer your question.
Mr. President,
No, I don't think
question from an Indonesian.
I don't think there's enough votes to codify unless something happens unusual in the House. I think we're going to get very close in the House, but I think it's going to be very close, but I don't think we're going to do it.
So there we go. After all of the hubbub of vote for us, vote for us, vote for us, we're going to codify Roe versus Wade. It turns out that they're not going to have the votes. They're not going to have the votes. Unless something weird happens, we're not going to have them. Just to really hammer this point home about how much the tone has changed, especially from President Biden on this, let's take a look at one more clip from President Biden less than a month ago and hear what he had to say about Roe versus Wade and what his top priority is going to be after these elections in November.
Care about the right to choose, then you got to vote. That's why in these midterm elections are so critical. Elect more Democratic senators to the United States Senate and more Democrats to keep control of the House of Representatives. And folks, If we do that, here's the promise I make to you and the American people. The first bill that I will send to the Congress will be to codify Roe v. Wade. And when Congress passes it, I'll sign it in January, 50 years after Roe was first decided the law of the land.
I mean, you hear it there from the man himself, President Biden. Again, that was less than a month ago. That was in the month of October. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. We're going to do this. At that point in time, the best case scenario for Dems was basically the outcome that we actually had, was the Democrats holding the Senate. It looks like the Democrats are actually going to pick up one seat in the Senate. Part of it depends on the Georgia runoffs, but I tend to think that Warnock's going to have a better chance there. But if, as it is right now, Democrats are keeping the Senate, there's a chance for them to pick up a seat in the Senate, which is a better outcome than what they had before. And at the time of Biden making that statement that we just played in October, it looked like Democrats were going to have a loss of a lot more seats in the House than they ended up losing. Republicans are going to have the slimmest majority in the House of Representatives, whereas before it looked like the GOP was probably going to have, plus 20 seats or something like that in the House of Representatives. So Biden making that statement is purely bad faith. Purely he's saying, get out and vote for these things that essentially he knew he was likely going to have potentially less votes to deal with. Then, right now, it looks like Democrats might be only down 2 seats in the House of Representatives, and they very well might gain a senator. If you want to do this, I mean, it's tight, but it's still possible, right? Like, let's get in there and actually try to, John Fetterman, for example, won his election in Pennsylvania. I was on the ground there with John Farina on the ground there. We were there all week talking to folks. John Fetterman, in his speeches, is saying he's for filibuster reform. That's another senator for filibuster reform to try to push for Roe versus Wade. Joe Biden needs to get in there. And like I said in that clip earlier, we're really beating this to death. I've been saying it. Jordan's been saying it. Ron Placone's been saying it. Tina's been saying it. Kim's been saying it. Everyone's saying this. Biden needs to use the bully pulpit to the max and actually get this done. It is not impossible. It is not impossible to do this. They're fundraising on this like crazy. And obviously abortion is an issue that people care about. All the polls leading up to the midterm elections here were looking terrible for Democrats. What looks like saved them, the one thing that looks like it saved them in poll after poll and just on the ground, me talking to people, was abortion. Again, in Pennsylvania, everywhere we went, I was talking to voters, and I'll be honest, I didn't think that Fetterman was going to pull this off. He did, though, right? And the reason he did, from what I can tell, is on the issue of abortion. We talked to voters all over the place, and any voters who were leaning towards Fetterman, when I asked them what their top issue was, it was 9 times out of 10 abortion. I'm trying to even think about maybe it was 10 times out of 10. Almost every single voter who was voting for Fetterman listed abortion as one of their issues. And I will say, even folks who described themselves as conservative were saying that they thought that a lot of the Republicans in the country were going too far on the issue by banning abortion with no exceptions. This is not impossible. In the House of Representatives, you can probably sway over the amount of voters that you would need to do this. In the Senate, if again, Biden needs to use the bully pulpit. He needs to pressure the hell out of Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, and anybody else who will get in the way, and personally campaign against them to make sure that they won't win their races. This is not an issue that Democrats should back down on, or else they're going to lose massive credibility. They've already lost credibility with me. I can't believe that, they've got the gall to go out there and campaign on this so heavily and then do nothing about it so quickly. I mean, it's literally, today is Tuesday. The election was last Tuesday. It took all of 1 week for Biden to essentially say, sorry guys, we're going to do nothing on abortion. Sorry about that. Thanks for all the donations. I appreciate it. Thank you for making sure we have the majority so that we can keep the Senate. And, we did way better in the House than we thought. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate the money, but F you, we're not going to do anything. That's essentially what happened. And you know what? Another issue, I'm not going to get as much into this, but another issue that seems that, worked out well for getting votes was on student loan forgiveness, right? Biden signs this into law. Surprising to me, right? I was surprised that he did it. Happy that he did it. Not signs it into law, but signs an executive order doing this. $10,000 for anybody who made under the certain dollar amount threshold, and then $20,000 for anyone who had Pell Grants. And again, I was personally affected by this. I had Pell Grants and I still have student loan debt. So I saw that happen and I was like, holy shit, they're doing something good for me for once. Maybe they are going to go and do some of these things that they're saying. And now it's held up in the courts. The press secretary is saying that they're looking into this and going to try to fight it. I mean, we'll see. Based on the track record on abortion here, I don't know that it's necessarily going to happen, but at this point, I mean, we're going to have to see what happens. Anyway, guys, stay tuned to Status Coup. We're going to have a great live stream tonight. We're likely going to have former President Donald Trump announcing his re-election, so definitely keep an eye out for that. There's going to be a great show. If you didn't hear, congrats to Jordan and his wife on the birth of their new daughter. Very happy for you, Jordan. And we will see you all soon. Thanks so much for watching, guys.